Well, I'm back at the cabin and I did that video yesterday with Leo and Brian. It's pretty awesome. And everyone's seen what it looks like in the wintertime, but we finally have some summer here. The Sea-Doos aren't in yet, but I just put the boat in now, just launched it. So it's gonna be a great summer. Looking forward to, I don't know, a little more NABU, we'll see. But as you can see, I got some fishing to do, some wakeboarding. All right, so let's check out our video of the NABU prototype keyboard. What's going on, NABUers? The time has come. We have the magic keyboard, the 4-port prototype. Things are a little different on this keyboard compared to the regular one. Let me just move some stuff out of the way here. To start off, why don't we grab the regular keyboard and put the two together, and so you can see some differences, understand where we're coming from when we talk about how this is a prototype and a little bit different than what you're familiar with. You'll notice that this color is different than this arrow. You'll notice that these have, like this one here, and it almost looks like it was hand painted. And if we look at the newer one, you can see the clarity of the buttons compared to the prototype. So you see how even the texture grain is different on the yes versus the arrow keys, and the no button, which looks like it should say on. It looks like that font is better spaced for on than no. And the symbol key, which is different than the shift. The go key being blue on here, but very blue on there. The TV NABU key again with the pause key. You can see how they look very different, definitely different than the NABU keyboard that we're familiar with today. So the special keys, such as the symbol key and the yes and on key, the page up and page down, these scroll keys, they are prototypes on here. They are, I would take it as saying being painted on. The logo, or the banner, I guess, that goes across the top, a little different in the sense that you have a brighter stripe. As far as the actual mold plastic goes, there's a little bit of shine and sparkle in the newer keyboard, where this original is matte and it's very smooth. This is very smooth. There's no, I don't feel any pores. Like, it doesn't feel as rough as this keyboard. This one, it looks like the mold has some sort of, you know, sandy type, gave it like a little bit of grit to it. And let's flip over these keyboards and see what they look like. So the newer keyboard has a more professional manufactured sticker here. You can see that we got some manufactured dates, some revisions. It's made in Korea. So this is assembled and made overseas, where there are screw holes all the way around. And if you look at the Canadian keyboard, the prototype, made in Canada, you'll notice that the screw holes are in different positions. So it's entirely a different mold, for sure, a different mold. And let's take a look at the sticker. So we have here the assembly part number, which is 0990000180. with a serial number of 416400154. It's a different, like you'll notice that here, our part number is the 900000180, but our part number here is 0890000180. So there's the 08 in front of it where there isn't on this one. This one also says that it's the model keyboard 2, which means that this one could have been like this edition. I don't know if Leo can add some context, but maybe it was given to customers. I don't know. There was no 4-player games created. There's a 4-player game I created on the NABU called Game Man Yeah, which is available on Cloud CPM and User Area 1, also called Game 5. Let's dive into these keyboards and take a little look-see at what we're gonna find. Let's take a little look. I think we have to flip it back up this way. And, oh, is there a screw I missed? Oh, look at that, I missed one more screw. So this keyboard is attached to this case. So this is attached quite well. Oh, it's just, yeah, it's just stuck with some tape. There we go. Okay, so we have here the part number. Flip this around so you can read it. And our circuit board. Looks like we have here a Rev A, a 90020070 Rev A. Now, what's interesting is this keyboard, as far as I know, has never been taken apart. And I already see that there is scratches on this ROM chips label. So I would like to know in the comments, if you open yours up, if you also have the same, and wondering how this came to be and what could have caused this. Were these chips taken off, reprogrammed, but why was it kind of scratched and then put back? Let's take a look at the actual PCB here, where because I'm wondering, do any of these solder joints rub up on that chip? Let's take a look at our fancy prototype. Let's pop this guy open and see what we find. Okay, so right off the get-go, you can see here that the top is not separating from the bottom. So this keyboard is actually attached to the top. So that's a different with the mold. And it looks like I might have to open it this way for the ribbon cable. There we go. So I'll have to put these side by side so we can see the differences, but I can't tell you right off the bat what I see that's too different outside of the fact that we have obviously a custom ROM, and we'll have to take a look at our PCB for the keyboard here and see what the differences are there as well. I've placed the two keyboards side to side. Now this one is the prototype and this one is the production. So even though I did the test a few seconds ago where I pushed on this keyboard to see if it rubbed against this chip, it turns out that I have the same scratch on this one from the keyboard. So I am guessing through weight, maybe a lot of weight, because you have to remember these keyboard was stored in a box from brand new for how long, and it could have stuff piled on top of it. And this one was, gosh, who knows? I mean, it was in my closet for the longest time. It was in my dad's shop for the longest time. It was all over the place. So Maybe in regular use, you don't experience this, but maybe it's when there's weight on it. But I could say that this is probably scratched from weight because we have the exact same marking on the same position on this sticker here. So as far as the rest of the actual design of the board, they look quite similar. They're not identical, that's for sure. So we have over here on the prototype, we have some caps this way oriented in that direction, where we have some caps oriented in this direction around the is it a 7805 most likely linear voltage regulator. So that would bring your, I think they're 9 volts these keyboards run at from the NABU, and that's why you have this giant resistor on the NABU PCB in the NPC in the computer that actually brings your 12 volts down to 9, and then this would bring it down from 9 volts to 5 to power your ICs and your circuit. What else we have here? We have the CPU is an MC6803P, where on a prototype we have an MC6803G. So I'm not sure what the P and G mean. I'm sure it's just, who knows, something not very relevant. It could be, or maybe it is. Maybe you can search and find out for me. Looks like this is probably, is that a character converter? What is it? Oh, it's an ADC. That's an ADC chip. Silly me. So I'm guessing that was put there because they were going to go with paddles at some point. Now, I have tested these keyboards with paddles and I did not get very happy results. So we also have a little resistor network here, which we don't have here. We have all of our diodes kind of, vertically here, where they're horizontal over here. And I'm guessing it's the same number of them because it'd be a diode per any of the I/O. One of the things you'll notice that people have said, oh, look, you can just solder on the connectors and make it a 4-port keyboard. But that does not look like the case because you're missing a few things here. It looks like you're missing, there's another IC that we're missing. Oh no, these are diodes I'm taking. No, these are diodes. You can see they're all labeled over here as well. And there's a bunch of diodes missing over here and over here. So you would have to add and fill in the blanks for this to be a 4-port. So it's not going to be as simple as merely cutting holes in here and soldering 2 connectors. It looks as if you're going to have to actually add some additional hardware. I'm not sure if the ROM on here will support it, if they removed it. I don't know. I would think that they would remove it. And the only reason I think that was because they have all this open circuitry, so stuff could be floating. I don't know if they're holding anything low. If I/O is floating, then you're going to get a bunch of noise on the channel, right? You're going to get a bunch of characters from buttons that aren't being pressed, that physically aren't there. So I'd like to see somebody actually modify their newer NABU keyboard, their production keyboard, and see if you can actually add these diodes and make it a 4-port. Another thing that's interesting about this as well is we have a detachable keyboard cable. There's actually a plug here where we can detach it and separate the two, where on the newer production model, it's all soldered and connected together, so it can't come off. The ROM chip is kind of intriguing me, given that it says the 90020070. All right. Now, the reason why I think that's intriguing is because when we looked at the keyboard model number, to turn this around, it says the 90000180. And again, we're 900070. So I find that interesting. Rev 2. But we also have the exact same number on the the production keyboard, except it says Rev A. So we have a Rev 2 versus Rev A. So curious to know what that means. I'm guessing they went into letters when they were production, and they were numbers when they were developing. That to me makes a lot of sense. I find this ADC chip the most interesting. I haven't Googled, I just see the words ADC and I think analog to digital converter. That's what goes through my head. But I don't even know, without following the traces, what it's connected to, and if it is connected at all to the joystick ports. And it also makes me wonder if it is connected to the joystick ports. Something else that's kind of interesting here is these were hand soldered, these chips. You can see this one is, I don't know if you can tell in the picture on the camera, but it's crooked. It's slanted. It's they didn't put it in properly all the way. Now, this isn't the first time I've had to take this keyboard apart. When I was in Thunder Bay at the computer club they have there, the retro computing club, I brought my NABU and I brought this keyboard, and it was acting up. I was having a ton of problems. And it turns out after I took it apart that fortunately someone there had a soldered iron, but what happened is that the keyboard connector, these pins here, weren't actually soldered to the PCB, and it was causing issues. So I think it might have been one or this one. One of the two weren't soldered, and they were just floating there, just making connection because there was a hole in the PCB. So that was interesting. So I soldered them, and also these are ground, and they're not soldered. So you think that these would be soldered to the ground plane here as well, but they're not. So we also have a bunch of traces that or jumps that were added. So a lot of jumper wires. So that's interesting. You can see all the flux. So these were definitely hand assembled. I find this interesting. The edge of these chips needed to be grounded, so they just ran little wires across from the pin here to the ground lines, here and here. When I took on the prototype board the PCB out, this metal plate came out that was here, and it's not part of the mold. It's actually like a big thick metal plate. You can hit someone over the head with it. And this mold has the holes just cut right into it. So that's interesting. You'll notice what we just showed on the other board about these grounds. Rather than having the pins grounded by little wires, they have traces there now. The rest of the PCB looks good. Like there's no wire jumpers. As far as the actual layout and design, very similar. We do know that when we flip it upside down, there's diodes that are in capacitors in different spaces in different areas. So we do know that there's some holes that are in different places. I think it would be really neat to take high-resolution pictures of these boards to understand how these jumpers became these traces. Understand where the similarities are between these two. So you can see here around the connector, we have some traces here that have been scratched away. Things have grounds here, moved to there. And when we move back here, we see that are there similarities? Well, it looks as if the pins on the connector here are entirely different locations than here. They don't look like the same pinouts at all. We have one big one here and two little ones and a little one there. But here we have one big one and one little one and one little one and one little one over here. So the actual DIN connectors on these two are different form factors for the actual PCBs. Now, looking at which wires are connected to the joystick ports, it looks like, at least from the bottom, so there are differences. Like we have 3 wires here going to 1, 2, 3, and then a 4-wire trace there. And then on here we have we only have 1, 2, and a 3 there. So we're missing the 4th, so that must be on the other side. So there are significant differences to these two boards. I'm going to have to put these back together and rip the ROM eventually, and then we can see what the differences are between this keyboard's ROM and the production keyboard's ROM. But that's pretty fun to dive deep into understanding the differences between these two keyboards. I know that I had promised you in December or January, I think it was, that I would get around to doing it. And, well, today's your lucky day, and here we go. So I will see you on the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.